Hi, Democrats. Today is Monday, December 11th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Monday. So it's Monday, and as we get closer and closer to the end of the year, you would think that things would slow down, but not so much. So it's Monday, and so every Monday, I'm going to tell you what the mass shooting number is, just so you have a feel. So right now we are at 722 mass shootings in the United States in 2023. 722. As I said last week, we're on track for 2 mass shootings every day. 2 mass shootings every day. And a mass shooting is defined as where 4 or more people are shot in addition to the shooter. Not necessarily how many people are dead but it's 4 or more people who are shot in one incident in addition to the shooter. So if it's 3 or more, they're not part of the 722. If it's a domestic violence situation and it's a couple, they're not part of this 722. If it's a one-off situation, they're not part. This is just where there are 4 or more people involved in addition to the shooter. We're on track to beat the number of 2 per day in 2023, 2 mass shootings per day. And poor Las Vegas, they just had one, and they had another one this morning. I'm going to keep talking about it because I do not want us to become desensitized to it. I don't want us to hear it and it just not reach our consciousness because it's just part of the everyday noise. I want to remind folks that people are going about their business. Last week, it was a college campus. This week, it's a parking lot. People are going about their business, and they're at risk of being shot by someone who has decided on a reason, who's taken some time to write a manifesto, who, for just whatever made up reason, that they're going to go and they're going to shoot more than 4 people at one time. Past time for common sense gun legislation. So, and the way that we do that is by electing more common sense folks. That's the only way that we're going to get better legislation, is by electing more common sense folks. Which brings me to the fact that here in Oklahoma, we have an election tomorrow. All over the state, there will be ballots out there. In Lawton, of course, I'm going to talk about Lawton. In Lawton, there's a special election where Democrats have a real opportunity to gain a seat in the Senate. We have Larry Bush, who is on the ballot in Lawton, Senate District 32, a seat that came open kind of out of schedule. Larry's been doing the work, and so many grassroots folks. I mean, young Democrats of Oklahoma have done phone banks. A lot of our Democratic elected senators have been on the ground knocking doors. Some of our House representatives have been on the ground knocking doors. Just grassroots volunteers. They're paying folks to be down there. There's a lot of work being done down there in Lawton. So if you're in Lawton or you know somebody who lives in Lawton, make sure that they know that the ballot box is open tomorrow from 7 to 7. This is a real opportunity to add one more seat to our state Senate so that it gives us a stronger voice in the state Senate as Democrats. Lawton, turn out. If you know anybody in Lawton, call them and make sure that they show up. It's a big deal. In Oklahoma City, there's the vote on the arena. And despite press releases and statements made on the news, the Oklahoma Democratic Party has not officially made a statement about the arena. Don't believe everything you read. I am the voice. I have not made an official statement about the arena. Please do your research. Do not be swayed by who is the last person to text you or email you or the last thing you get out of the mailbox. Do your research. Vote your conscience. It is a big deal and has a big statewide impact. So that's the arena. Also on the Oklahoma County ballot and some places elsewhere is House District 39. Currently, we have 2 Democrats, right? We have Reagan Roth and Paul Timmons, who are running to be the Democratic nominee. They will be on the ballot tomorrow. Those are the biggies that I'm aware of, but there are a lot of things that are going to be on the ballot all over the state. If you're not sure, if you have something to vote for, go out to the Oklahoma State Election Board, go to the voter portal, put in your name and your birthday, and click to see if you have a ballot. If you have a ballot, your sample ballot will be there, and it'll tell you what's going to be on the ballot. You can do a little research. I hope if you have an election tomorrow, you already know, but there is a way that you can check and see. So good news about the presidential election that's coming up first on March 5th, and then finally in November. Inflation. Now, if you watch the news and you only pay attention to the news, you don't pay attention to what's happening in your real life, and you don't pay attention to facts, right? You would believe that inflation is out of this world. So let me tell you this. Inflation has gone down 65% since last summer. 65%. It's gone down since last summer. Turn on the news, it's all doom and gloom, but inflation is actually improving. Groceries are down at their lowest percentage in the last 2 years. So things are improving on the domestic front. With regards to the minimum wage state question, here's what happens. So some folks get together and they decide that this is a thing that we need to vote on. They hire an attorney to write the language. They send it to the Secretary of State, who approves it and formats it, and then they put it open for a challenge period so that folks know that it's out there, and if they disagree with it, they can come and challenge it. Right now, we're in the challenge period of the state question for minimum wage. We're in the challenge period, and some folks have raised their hand and are complaining that we might move our minimum wage from where it's been since 2014. So right now, there aren't people out there collecting signatures because we have to get through the challenge period, address all of those issues before we could move forward. That was a question that someone asked. I want to make sure that I answered that question. So back on the presidential election, inflation down, grocery prices down. On the other side of the aisle, the front runner, the guy who says he's only going to be a dictator for one day, he has now said that if he were to get elected again, and folks, we cannot let this happen, but if he were to get elected again, he's going to institute a religious test if you want to immigrate to our great country, that you have to pass a religious test. And if you don't agree with our religion, you can't come in. What is our religion? Who's going to administer the test? What is defined as passing the test? And finally, how dare he? When he was asked to talk about the Bible, he said 2 Corinthians. Now, I don't expect everybody to know the Bible. I don't expect everybody to know the Christian Bible. But if you're going to put yourself up as somebody who's going to administer a religious test, you should know the basics. It's not 2 Corinthians. It's not. It won't be. It hasn't been. But this is the guy who says he's going to administer a religious test. This is why we all have to pay attention. We have to make sure that everyone we know knows that there's an election coming up and that they get engaged. So in the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to remind you. You all know who I'm going to vote for, and we'll talk about that more. But I'm going to remind you that there are 6. There are 6 candidates that are going to be on the ballot in Oklahoma, registered as Democrats. There are plenty of choices that are not Donald Trump. There are plenty of choices that are not Donald Trump. He is the front runner. Even after all of his legal battles, he keeps climbing in the polls. Even after saying he wants to be a dictator, he keeps climbing in the polls. We have to meet that head on. We have to combat that. We have to protect our democracy. So If you're going to wait until October to get engaged, or if you're thinking you're going to wait until October to get engaged, I am begging, don't get engaged now. Make sure that everybody you know is registered to vote and that they verified that their voters registration is up to date, because in our state, we are constantly purging people from the rolls for this rule or that. But it is your responsibility to verify that your voters registration is still valid, that is still up to date, that you are registered where you live, and that you vote. So if you have skipped a couple of elections, it happens. Please go out to the Oklahoma State Election Board voter portal and verify that your name and birthday are still out there. If it says no record, we finally have online voters registration. Don't get out. Don't fuss. Just go ahead and re-register so that you are able to participate. November is not the only election we have next year. There are school board and city council elections, and this special election happening in February. There are elections happening in April, in June, in August, in November. There are elections happening all year next year, and you need to be as prepared as possible. So go, even if you always vote, go verify that your registration is still good, so that when you show up, you can cast your ballot and make it count. All righty, thanks for joining me. Tonight on the Hamilton Report, you do not want to miss this. On the Hamilton Report with Scott Hamilton, he will be joined by 5 members of the Enid Social Justice Club. Those are the people who got the petition together so that they could get the recall of the Nazi off of the city council. Those are the folks who got together, grassroots, went out, knocked doors, got the signatures, that are actually doing the work. I'm going to be checking in. I hope that you check in. That's tonight at 6:30 at the Oklahoma Democratic Party's Facebook page, OK Democrats, and our YouTube page, OK Democrats, tonight at 6:30. And me, I'll be back here tomorrow at 4:15. You guys have a great night.